Let's begin once again with our new week of human rights, in which we are talking about many rights. Today we will see one of the principal ones that are related to, for most of the people, to one of the most sacred things in their life. It is about religious freedom. So the learning objectives of today will be first to see a little about the history. Well, it's a lot of things, but we will focus in one battle. You will remember that because it's very famous. Second, we will see some key notions to, to approach to the scope of religious freedom. And after that, we will see the relationships that could be between religions and state. There are many possibilities. Uh, each country develop his own possibility. I will mention all of them and explain which one could be better, uh, or which kind of the possibilities we have in this topic. So let's begin with the first topic, that is about religious freedoms in Europe. In Europe, once again in Europe, because there was a big battle, one of the most incredible battles, an international war with many countries get involved in this war. Some people say that it's not absolutely about religious freedom, all those battles. I agree, but that not all of them, you will see, but is a main issue in this history. And it's good to know who is the owner of this symbol. I don't know if any one of you knows which house, which family represent this symbol. No one of you. Well, don't worry. It's the uh, symbol of the Holy Roman Empire, or Sacrum Imperium Romarum. This is good to know something about this empire, because well, was too important in the history of the world to develop so many things. Also, Germany now, because well, as you can see, is a mix, as a setup now of the states. Now, in the place of that, in the north of France, you can see here. You can see here. The very beginning of this empire was with Carlomagno. Carlomagno was crowned as an emperor of this new empire in Christmas, December 25 of the year 800. And this is quite interesting. You can see the picture there, the painting there. Who is crowning the emperor? Well, it's incredible. It's the Pope. It's the Pope. Why? Why? And this is good to know and to understand the history. Is the history of this empire. It's because first we have to remember that there was a big empire called Rome. Rome occupied more or less all this area in its best time, Europe, the whole Mediterranean, and a part of the island, of the big island of Europe. So, but one more or less in the centuries five. Then after that, well, little by little, another part we will see next week. The Rome fall. What happened? Well, there were many troops of the Huns, Huns of the Barbs and many tribes that were conquering the whole Roman Empire, and was too difficult to maintain the stability of the empire. That's why the feudalism appears. The feudalism is, well, one city, one landlord with a lot of power to defend the people of the city. And that's why all the cities had at that time very big walls to defend each city from the invasions of the people of the north or of the south also. So that was the feudalism, no? And many little reigns appear here, many little reigns, and that is quite important to know, because with that, for example, in that zone that you are seeing now, there were, well, many composed of hundreds of subunits, no, of kingdoms, principalities, duchies, counties, bishoprics, free imperial cities, and other domains. So a mix of many things, each one with its own power. Each city, each free imperial cities and, well, counties, and all of them with a lot of freedom, with a principal, for example, a kingdom, a prince, or a bishop, whatever you want. So, in an effort to reunify that, so all of them had at that time one thing in common, that was the religion. So that's why in the year 800, in the Christmas day, Pope Leo III decided to crown one of those kings of that set of kingdoms as an emperor, no? Of the whole Holy Roman Empire. Well, and what it means, it was a title that was in the past, 4 centuries before the crowning. So, in theory and in diplomacy, the emperors were considered at that time primum inter pares, regarded as first among equals among other Roman Catholic monarchs across Europe. Well, as I told you, all these kings, princes, bishops, people, landlords, duchies, counties, the thing that they had in common was their religion. So the Pope nominated one as a principal to talk with him in the empire. So as you can see, it's a very strange empire here. I don't know if you realize, no, the first among equals in those, because each county, each city, each free city, and so on, will have his own power, no? With a lot of autonomy, but with more or less one guy that is guiding the whole empire, but it's not so well unified. There is a lot of independence in each county. So, and little by little, the history with marriage, with wars, and with many things, well, the king at the end of Spain took some control of that part, some control, and principally the Habsburg family, the Habsburg. Here you can see the symbol of the family. And when this empire finished with Napoleon Bonaparte, a French king, a French emperor, the last emperor, in 1806, he invaded all this part, the French troops, all this Holy Roman Empire, and he put finish to the empire. And it was incredible. It was incredible because he knew a lot of history. And he knew also that many times the Pope used time ago to crown the emperor. So he asked to the Pope to came to France and to crown him, and because at that time was the most powerful man of the world. So the Pope went to France, and, well, and he, in the moment that the Pope was putting the crown in his head, he took the crown and he crowned himself, saying, "I'm most powerful than the Pope and more powerful." So that's the end of the Holy Roman Empire. Well, as you can see now, there is a lot of, of countries now in that place are so different. So now we can be focused in the history of the religions. For sure, you remember the Martin Lutero that began at the very beginning was a reform of the church, a reform of the church, and after that they were separated. They founded his own church, and in the very beginning of the 16th century, where there were a lot of counties, cities, kingdoms with a lot of problems, because most of them, well, in Germany specifically, it became Lutherans. After that, they were divided in many other religions, but at the very beginning, Lutherans, most of them. So so was a lot of problems, a lot of little battles, also with the kings of that time. And after that, well, what happened? That they agree, especially the emperor of that time was of Spain. Well, in a peace, the peace of Augsburg in 1555, with one principle, the principle of cuius regio, eius religio. I don't know if any one of you knows Latin. What it means? This means that each of the 224 member states was either Lutheran, or the most usual form of Protestantism was Lutheran, or Catholic, based on the choice made by the ruler. They will follow the whole kingdom or the whole city, Catholics or Lutherans. So in addition, Lutherans could keep lands and property taken from the Catholic Church since 1552, more or less. But in any case, that was the first peace between both. So you can imagine 224 lands, different lands with different principles there. So you can see here more or less the division at that time. It's amazing, no? is not unified. No. On the other hand, well, France was very Catholic, also Spain, Portugal too, and some other countries here, and in Italy most. So the people, Catholic, just well, at the very beginning here, little by little, spreading in so many places. The first piece that, but then after that happened, well, a little piece, but a little more tensions and more tension because the Protestant movement was divided many times because, well, as you know, they have no pope, no firm criteria to be unified, so it's easy that each one decide, well, I don't believe in this part, and I will split into the one movement and split and again and again. And because that at that time appeared the Calvinists with a more rigorous doctrine that asked to do many things, but not all people used to do that kind of things. And they were seen at that time as an extremist religion. So even in Germany, not so many people accept them. And in other places, even less. No, that was the cause also that some of them went out to the United States, no, when it was founded. In any case, the monarch or the emperor of that time was Ferdinand II, was Catholic, no, of the Holy Roman Empire. As I told you, was a Spanish guy. No? So, on the other hand, in Bohemia, where is Bohemia? Here is the Bohemia, this part of France, more or less. There was a lot of issues because this guy, well, all the people there in the Bohemia didn't accept Ferdinand II as the king of the Bohemia. They decided, no, we want to have another king, and that king will be Frederick V. Frederick V. So there was a war. There was a war, the first part of the war, because the War of the 30 Years begins in 1618, well, precisely with this thing, the protest of the Bohemians, the deposition of the Bohemians. So the Protestant Frederick V of the Palatine well, began the war, but regardless of religion, most German princes refused to support him. And by the early of 1620, the Bohemian revolt had been suppressed. And after that, well, this guy fought. This guy fought. That was the beginning, 1618. So after that, we have a new event. A new event is in this place, in the Bohemia, no? The emperor Ferdinand II sent there well, a lot of people, well, an embassy of 3 guys, well, 2 ambassadors and 1 secretary, but the Bohemians didn't accept them. So the meeting was in the last floor, and they decided to throw by the window the 3 guys, as you can see here. No, they are taking those guys, the 2 ambassadors, and the secretary, and they threw by the window, as you can see in the magic effect of the presentation. What was incredible was all of them survived. The three guys. Now there are two stories. Now the followers of Ferdinand II used to say no, that there were angels that helped them to be alive, that they rescued them. On the other hand, you can see that the Protestant will never accept that. No? They say no, it's because the floor was like a sponge, and that's why they survived. Could be both. I don't know. Well, I think that angels always helps us in an ordinary way. But in any case, that was the beginning of the second part of the 30 Years War, because with that, Ferdinand II decided, well, we had to put here some order. He sent all his troops to put order in the Holy Roman Empire, in this part. And after some years of fighting, there was an edict of restitution in 1629. What was about this edict of restitution? Well, so many things. This undermined the territorial right across large areas of North and Central Germany. That's why he had a lot of power there. No? This provided an opportunity, by the way, by the people of there to attack the emperor. No? Specifically, this guy appears. Who was this guy? Gustav Adolphus of Sweden. That was also a Protestant. So in 1632, he decided, well, emperor is avoiding our autonomy here, and we have to fight against that. And he was the new leader. And in the history of the war, he is mentioned many times because he developed a new technique of the battle, no? To attack, because he put well, wheels to the cannons, but not just to move, but is to a quick war, to go very fast from one point to another. So people used to say that he is the father of the new modern war strategies. Well, in any case, after 2-3 years, he fall. He fall, and what happened with that? That he was killed in 1632. But the revolutions continued, and with a lot of things, no? Because it was the principal, but after that, another replaced him, and that's why in 1635 the emperor of the Holy Roman Empire decided to sign a new peace. Well, as you can see, there are many pieces. A new peace, the Peace of Prague in 1635. So what happened here? Well, he decided not to fight again. Germany will have some autonomy. He accepted that. And on the other hand, they dissolved also the Eldron and the Catholic leagues. Remember that in whole this part of the empire, there were, as you saw in one of the maps that I showed at the beginning of this lecture, there were a lot of Protestants and also a lot of Catholics. All the Catholics constitute a league, the Catholic League, and many leagues around there, to support Ferdinand II, to support. So, but in this peace, it was dissolved. And it means that the Protestant will have more political power in those cities at that time. And that's what happened. And well, it seems to be that there will be a lot of peace, but not because the history was so strange at that moment. More or less, we can say that it was a battle or a war against Catholics and Protestants. It was not so clear for all people as a scholar, for all scholars, as I mentioned you. But from now and the next years, it will be clear that it's not longer a war of religions, because France, that is here, realized, well, this war could be very convenient to me. So a new actor appears in this war. Until here, you can see here the imperial, the Habsburg monarchy with Ferdinand. You can see the symbol here. I don't know if you can. The Spanish Empire, Bavaria, the Catholic League was one part, and many little kingdoms, cities, duchies, and many things, no? Here. But from 1635, a new enemy appears, France, that is absolutely 100% Catholic country at that time. No? So Ferdinand II passed away, and his son recovered, well, was crowned as the new emperor, no? Ferdinand III. You can see here, there, in the same year of the death of his father, 1537, well, he took the empire. And on the other hand, you have France. France with look this guy, no? Louis XIV. Louis XIV. He used to be called the King of the Sun, no? Le Roi Soleil. So, because as you know, the empire of the British was so big at that time that the sun never posed, never falls in his empire. So, but it's incredible, no? I was mad with that painting. I don't know if you can see the shoes of the, seems to be a shoes of a lady. Incredible, no? All the dress, the things, even the you can see the hair of the king. No, practically a lady. At least in at that time, obviously the fashion was so different, no? But it's incredible. Well, in any case, with a lot of proud of himself, he decided, I want to take advantage of this war, and I will fight against Spain. That was so problematic for me so much time. That's why he joined the Protestants, but being a Catholic, no? Some academics used to say that also the Pope supports him. So what's incredible seems to be that it doesn't have to be with religion. And finally, after 30 years, they signed the Peace of Westphalia. Well, what happened with the Peace of Westphalia? Many things. Well, obviously, all those territories of the Holy Roman Empire acquired a lot of autonomy. Yeah, as I told you, and also two countries were gained independence, Swiss and Netherlands. No? And it is quite interesting. I don't know if you have read something about this in international law, because after that, well, there were many consequences in the Treaty of Westphalia. Well, uh, well, let me see. I think that uh, first, what happened in the world, many things, as I told you, and the casualties. Let's see the casualties of this war. More or less, that was incredible, no? 800, up to 8 million people passed away, dead casualties. But you can see there that probably 60 or even 70% of those casualties were civilians, citizens. That was so terrible because in many parts of the Holy Empire, they had no food because the war, the so long war. So because of starvation, many people passed away, especially in Germany. It was so incredible. Yes, Ali.
I have a question in regards to the battle between the anti-imperial alliance and the imperial alliance. So on one side we have the Dutch Republic, Denmark, Dutch Norway, Brandenburg, Dutch Prussia. So does it mean that these states, such as the Dutch Republic, Denmark, and Norway, were already states and they were fighting against a monarchy and an empire, that is the Habsburg monarchy, Spanish Empire, Bavaria, and the Catholic League? So were these others empires, well, these others are sovereign states?
Yeah, well, they know they were part of the Holy Roman Empire. These countries now, Swiss, yes, and also Netherlands, but the others were part. Uh, you have to understand many things, because uh, how was the kind of kingdom of that? Well, was an elective monarchy, more or less, an elective monarchy in the family who will be. So was not so clear, but many times the emperor was also the king. That's what happened with the Bohemia. And the Bohemia was elected the same emperor, and they said no, he is Catholic, so we will oppose. And that's why Frederick took advantage of that for the first deposition. Okay, more or less. Yeah, it was a set of things. Well, is the typical fiefdom, the typical political regime of that time. After falling Rome, there was not a big unity of the empire. Well, a little unity between the Catholic monarchs at the beginning, little by little more, but that time was not so strong. Something, yes, but okay. Cool. So,
thank you.
This was the peace treaties of Westphalia. Two treaties. It's called the Peace of Westphalia, but it was two treaties in two different cities, by the way, not in just one. So, let me see. It is important because the treaty gave to Swiss independence of Austria, and the Netherlands independence of Spain. That precision. And the German principalities secured their autonomy, as I told you, and France acquired most of the Alsace-Lorraine. So France took advantage too much of that war, as you can say. Well, many people used to say that was an incredible war. For example, Leibniz, Rousseau, Kant, Scheler visualized the Peace of Westphalia as the first step towards the universal peace. But one of those authors points out that the projection for the future should not be mistaken for the descriptions of reality. In any case, there was also a principle of religious equality that appears there, no? This new piece. On the other hand, as I told you, I was mentioning you, in the international law, there is a lot of consequences also. This is called the system of Westphalia, because the system became known as Westphalian sovereignty, that includes the inviolability of borders and non-interference in domestic affairs of sovereign states. After decide that each country will have the whole power to control the religion of each state. So the foreign or the external powers cannot surpass this, or violate this autonomy, this sovereignty, this power. So this is more or less the symbol and the Holy Roman Empire and the possessions that this guy Ferdinand III has at that moment. As you can see, the Holy Roman Empire, more or less, the Transylvania, this was gained by France, also the whole Spain and other territories. Also in Italy, it is good to see. There is the States of the Pope, but this part, the north and the south, was one time of Spain, and another of France, another of Germany. It was a mix. That explains so well the mafia, because there were no authorities to put order. That's why the mafia grew there, and a non-governmental authority that puts some kind of order at that time. Well, in any case, that was the world at the end of the 17th century and at the beginning of the 18th century. What happened after that? And that will be very interesting. One last consequence is that the Calvinists gained also protection by the law. They were not longer seen as a extremist, but also protected religion in the empire. And so that's why the principle of equality of religions was more or less one success of this 30 years war. So after that, remember that at that time they had a lot of colonies around the world, the whole Europe, little by little increasing also. And more or less from the 19th century up to today, the religions were developed like this. You can see here many things that will help you. For example, the very beginning of that century, the folk religions were the majority. Christians, little by little, approaching, increasing little by little, and other religions. But all of the country, all of the people of the world had at that time other religions, more or less, other religions. And with no clear religion, it means, well, almost nobody in the world. You can see here in the last just 3 million of a world with 1 billion people, more or less, at that time. But little by little, others, the religions were decreasing, Christians increasing, Muslims little by little too. At that time, there were many causes also. No? This time, more or less, the population growth was more or less the same in any religion. In any religion, all of them big families, more or less the same. You can see here in the middle of the 19th century, the decreasing of the folk religions. Why? Probably there could be many causes. No? Probably one of the causes was also that they were controlling the world politically, and it means so many things. From the antiquity, before Rome, the one who rules the country is the one who imposed the religion. Now we see from Westphalia that it's not the best system, but it was the history of the world from the very beginning, or before Rome, no? When even if the king convert to another religion, the whole kingdom should convert to another religion, whatever it could be, in any case. So in the 20th century, you can see a predominance of the Christians at the very beginning. No? Little by little, you can see here, little by little, the unaffiliated people without any religions increasing. In the also because communism. No? So you can see in Russia, for example, a lot of people were without any religion, no? Because the ones who have the ruler imposed that. That was so clear at that time, at the very first, increasing a lot. After that, the Soviets also promoting the regime and saying that any religion is against the human being, and that's why we have to. It's like a drug, any religion. That was one of the causes that increasing. That is new in the history of the humankind. This predominance, no, before in the and this appears in the new 20th century, no. This is the end of the 20th century. You can see an increase of Muslims. Little by little, they will reach more or less Christians. More or less, there will be some. Why? It is also now. It's also because the size of the families. Christians have many parts of the world very small families with a fewer numbers of members, and Muslims not. Well, that is a cause also, no? As you can see. But we are finally probably this year, and you can see here. This is more or less the map. Let me see. I am good. This is more or less the map that we have now. That is interesting. First of all, majority of the world Christians, then Muslims, unaffiliated. This is new in the history of the humankind, as I mentioned you. Well, we have to deal with this also with the law, no? Hinduism, but Hinduism in some specific places in the world. On the other hand, Christians, Muslims, and affiliate everywhere. That there is no one country, one religion. Who use religion. This principle of before Westphalia was no longer exist now. No. It was a principle of the antique world also, but now it is impossible to put because we realize that it's not a matter of politics, it's a matter of what each individual will decide to believe, more or less. And folk religions were reduced so much. This is a set of the folk religions of the world, imagine. It's not one of the biggest one. Well, some Jews here, other religions, Buddhists also. But Buddhism and Hinduism were very focused in some part of the world, not everywhere. So this is the new map. So the map, you can click here when you download this presentation. and you will see in each country the rate, because this it only shows the principal, the number one religion. As you can see, well, Christians is the majority, more or less, in most part of the world. Then you have the Islam also in some parts of the world. This, you have to remember this map for the next week. I will say you why next week. But you can see here that it is what happened. It is neo non-religious, and you can see, especially in China, why. It's obvious. It's obvious, no? They follow the communist idea that this is a drug, any religion. At the very beginning of the 20th century, this part of the world was non-religious, and after the communist fall, they become most of them Christians, no? Orthodox, most of them, but Christians. So you can see that it's a matter of political things, not of political imposition, because after the falling, well, the majority became Christians. Well, what it means that they were officially non-religious people. No? On the other hand, some part of the antique Soviet Union, these countries, for example, now they are non-religious in majority. In any case, there is a new scenario in the world now in the religious, because this is just showing the principal religion, but you can see here in the link the percent of religion in each country. More or less, you will know more or less Kenya, not to repeat. And for a conclusion of this part, you can see here that there are the atheists, non-religious, other religions, Buddhist, Hindus, Muslims, Catholics. These are all of them Christians. No? Orthodox just at 3%, Protestant, and so on. More or less. Atheist, 2%, 2%. This is new. This is new. So, after seeing the history of religious freedom, we will see the notions about religious freedom, relations between religion and state. Let's continue with the key notions about religious freedom. So here I will ask you many questions. In many treaties, normally religious freedom is not a right and alone. It's also always in the same article with another kind of rights. For example, freedom of thought, freedom of conscience. We have seen something about freedom of conscience. You have to read a little more about these kind of things. But in the lectures, it's impossible to see all things, but at least, well, some ideas, the principle, the main ideas, in order, well, if you have this, it would be easier to check kind of readings to do that, to be deep in these areas. And we can begin with the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, Article 18. Article 18, and you can read the first paragraph that everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. The three things linked. Well, many times it's not so technical, but for this declaration is absolutely good. This right includes freedom to change his religion or belief, and freedom either alone or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in teaching, practice, worship, and observance. So it is interesting. It is interesting. There are many things here. There are many things here. But first, I want to ask you why it matters to the law. What it matters? This is an important question. There are many things. Well, it's not absolute or not right, many things, but there are more important questions. It's good to think, not just to read and remember and tomorrow forget that and forget all. No? Why it matters? What do you think? Why it's important? And how important it is? How important it is? What do you think? We have seen things that probably could be incredible, no? That, well, and many people don't believe that. I think that, well, some rights, some freedoms are more important than others. And someone said that the most important is the religious freedom. Why it matters? Why it matters? No one of you. Yes, Joy.
I think it matters because human beings, in as much as our nature is the same, we do not think the same, we do not believe in the same things. So I think it matters to have it underpinned in the law so that to guarantee everyone the space to express their beliefs without being condemned for it. Yeah, so that's what I think.
Yeah, that is interesting. Yes, yeah. But probably there are more things. Why it's? Do you think that freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, and specifically now religion, could be in the most important rights, or any right is the same? Yes, Rosalind.
Well, last week we saw that the transcendental relationship is one of the most important ones. So probably it translates into the freedom of religion being a very important right.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it's because related with the origin. Yes, Tasnim, yes.
I remember when we learned about senses, we learned that some senses are more higher or superior rather than other senses. And the superior senses were those relating to the intellect and thought and belief. And so because religion requires one to relate back to the intellect and their belief, I believe that as a result of it being a superior sense, it's also a superior right.
Yeah, probably could be. And I can put the same question in another way. Why this is important for your life? Not for the philosophy, not for the human rights, for your life. It is important. Probably you can say, no, for me, it is not important. That is an answer too, a possible answer. No? But I want to hear what you think about that. Because many times we think, no, the theory, no, but in our lives. Yes, Tasnim.
So in the handbook, something that I saw is that the state should allow parents to bring up their children with their own moral and religious beliefs. And so just based on that sentence, we recognize that religion is an integral part of our lives because we are brought up with it. And because of the notions of religion, we end up living our lives by it as well. And so if the state regulates this particular notion, to the point in which people aren't able to exercise it freely, then it would be detrimental to people's dignity and their being and their freedom to think in the way that they want to. So religion is a key part of growth in our lives, and yeah, it's just an integral
because
part of
once
ourselves.
again, because our origin, well, our family, well, it's related to our family. Well, I will add a little more things, but for that, I want to ask you a second question. Don't you know which are the existential questions? Have you heard about that? The questions of our existence, the principal questions of our life. Have you heard? Can you remember anyone? Yes, Rosalind, Duta.
I guess the questions like, oh, sorry. These are questions like, why am I here? Who am I? Things like those.
Yeah, good. Duta, can you add any more? You need one more?
I think also it has to do with the purpose in life, what we're put on this earth to do, and I would think that about the importance of religion. It answers these existential questions, which no other source can answer.
Okay, you're right, and that is important. That is important. Every human being used to ask some question, no? Who am I? Where do I come from? Where I go? Some guys also add, at what time is the lunch? As an existential thing. Obviously not. There are many others. If you click in Google, you will find this. No, which are the existential questions? No, what is my real nature or identity? What is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of existence? What is, well, but more or less we can think that all more or less are related with the first three one. This is quite interesting because at the end of the day, without a professor, without the things that our parents or our family or friends say to us, no? We should consider, well, what I'm doing here, no? A very superficial life never asks these kind of things. That is a superficial life, but it longs not so much time. There is a lot of crisis along the life. One is when you will end the university and you will suffer at the first crisis, no? Is the professional crisis, no? That you think that everything is the profession, and well, there is no space for my family, there is no space for God, and a very superficial life. But after that, in the 30s, you will have a second crisis. Now, what I'm doing here? No, not so strong, not so strong. In your 40s, you will suffer another big crisis, more or less, even more than it will hurt you more than the crisis of the, I don't know, 15 years, no? But then you will consider, well, I'm in the middle of my life, no? What I'm doing here, no? All the things that if I got to success, well, you will realize, no, the success is not enough, and it never filled me so much. And if you don't, you will say, well, I'm in the middle of my life, I will not have success. Never, probably never, and I will do an effort, but I see that it will not happen. It will not happen. What I'm doing here, what I'm doing here. So this question is going little by little, and especially at the end of the life, bigger, bigger, and bigger, and bigger, invading your thing. And it's good to put these questions at the very beginning of your life, not when you are dying. No, and say, well, what I did. No, the question should be these questions now, and to think, what should I do? I do not know what I did. What a shame. No. So this is important. And religion is related to the great questions of life, to the sense of, to the meaning of all the rights. The meaning of all the rights are there in these questions, no? What is death? What is death? Is something after death? What happens when I die? This is an answer of Google, not of me. What I put in Google, which are the existential questions, and Google give me these 7 questions. No? But more or less are related, all of them. Is there a God? It's not my question, it's Google question. Is there a God? Well, yes, every human being may consider these kind of things. It is good to give as much as freedom as we can, not only to consider these things. No, you can consider, no, if you're no, but also to resolve these questions, the most important questions, the questions that will invade your mind little by little. Obviously, you're not a superficial person, but most of the person are not. Most of the person are not superficial at the end, at least. When you face the dead, you are not superficial at all. So this is important. This question, and that's why many people say, well, to resolve this is the most important mission of our life. That's why we have to protect as much as we can freedom of thought, yes, freedom of conscience too, but religion, because it's nuclear to these questions. Religion, or the sense, or the meaning of life, or the purpose of our existence. All these kind of things are related with freedom of religion, religious freedom. That's why it matters. It matters and a lot. And it's not the same. The right, I don't know, to have one more free hour or one day off. No, it matters a lot more than I think. I think it's my point of view. More than any other right. So you can see here also many things. Everyone has the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. This right includes the freedom to change his religion or belief. And freedom, well, to have and change. Well, the change is not so easy for some states, no? Some states, when they go to the United Nations and say, well, we have, especially the Muslims, state, well, they don't agree with the change of religion. To adopt a religion, a true religion, yes, but not to change. Yeah, that is, I don't know really well. I think that is a matter of, in the Catholic Church, there is a distinction. It's more or less the same phrase in the canon law code, that, well, you have the right to accept the Catholic Church, but you cannot read any article to leave. But they accept that there are two legal systems different. No? One is that is based just in divinity law, but in natural law you have the right. This is the solution in the canon. So you have the right to change into any. It's natural right according to the Catholics. Although it is clear in the canon law, well, you can accept that it's not so clear the right to change in any case. Well, as you can see, that in any case, normally states used to say that if you can adopt and change your thought, your conscience, the same should be with religion. More or less, this is the common understanding. So let's continue with our question. We talk about religious freedom, but what is religion? What is a religion? One specific religion? What do you think? You have internet also to check, but it is crucial. It is crucial. Why? Because we are talking about religious freedom. So what we should defend? Most of the times, there is not a notion. Most of the time, there is a lot of problems with no notion. Don't you know what is a religion? Yes, Rosalind.
I don't know everything that needs to be there, but I can say that there needs to be a divinity and there needs to be rules that kind of order how the divinity is going to be recognized.
Very good, very good. You need just one element more, but quite good, perfect. Tasnim.
I don't know what the extra element is because I was going to talk about a collection of people who share common beliefs and manifest that belief in some
beliefs. Okay, that is perfect. Yeah, I think that is clear, and it's clear. Normally, people used to get another question: is a belief, any belief, a religion? This is easy. I think so. Abdirahman, what do you think about this? Is any belief a religion? This is easy. Yes.
No, I do not think that every belief is religion, because you can believe a lot of things that are not that do not pertain to religion. Yeah.
Okay, that I agree with you. The problem is that many times the human rights courts don't agree with that. We will see. We will see. And finally, and this is important. This is important. As you see, in the last century, there is a new movement of, in the whole history, in the whole human vision, approach, cosmovision, is now it's changing a little. Many people without religion, and there is a lost of the notion of sacred. It's not the same. I think that you have a good notion here still of this, what is sacred. I'm seeing in your culture that it is so important, the sacred things, the sacred trees, the sacred, in every religion, but it's important, and that is good for me. I don't know, probably for you too. But what is sacred? And this is important because I think that is a great value of the law, of the culture, many things. What is sacred? Can you answer this question? Yes, Rosalind.
And that which has a connection to the divine being, I'd say sacred.
Perfect. You're on fire today. Very good. It's anything that is connected with the divine things, well, the transcendental relationship, that is the things that are sacred. Many things are connected, for example, by death, no? By the thing that, but the fact of death and all things related to the death, the sacred tree, for example, no? Where the people are buried, well, that is sacred. Good, of anything. A priest is sacred because it's connected especially with divinity. I don't know, a church is the place where the people pray to ask anything to divinity, and so on, and so on. And this is important. This is a value that now many places around the world, they are losing this value. And for example, in the past, if you write things against God or any religion or the things that are sacred, you will be in prison, in jail, but because you cannot hurt the principal things of the heart of the people, no? And this crime, blasphemy, now is disappearing in most of the criminal codes of the world. It's incredible. Now it's not longer a crime. Instead of that, there is a new kind of crimes against hate, for example. And hate is understood whatever you want. There is a lawyer, Coleman, in the UK that says, well, with the hate crimes, you can sue whatever you want. If it is politically correct, you can sue anyone. You can sue anyone. No? It depends, no? It depends of the year, no? Because the things that are politically correct now are not the same things 5 years ago, and are not 10 years ago the same. So, but that's the world. That's the world, no? So we can say that the religion is a specific and probably we can add institutional form of relationship with divinity adopted by a community, okay? On the other hand, is an ordinary form of transcendental relationship is reflected in religion. The ordinary form of the relation to God is by some specific religion. Even now, you have seen the map I showed in the world, no? The whole world, most of the people shared one religion. Now, according to that, statistics are not absolutely true, but in any case, it gives you an idea. 11% of people have another kind of relation with the God, or the atheists are just a few statistically. Okay, but the ordinary still is quite strong by a religion. And this is interesting, no? So the question in the Human Rights Court and in the States many times is who will they consider a religion? Because in many states the religion have a lot of rights. For example, so principally in Europe, not in the States. In the States is the contrary, absolutely the contrary. For example, in Germany, the Lutherans and now every religion can ask part of the taxes. No? If the person put in the form, well, I want to give this part of my taxes to this religion. So many beliefs try to be a religion in order to have money. So many times the states used to say, no, you are not a religion. You are not a religion. Why are you asking me this? Just because you want money. Yeah, to give you a part of the taxes of the people. Yeah. Another thing, but so that is the issue in the Human Rights Court. So normally in human rights, all courts around the world used to say, well, and there is not a clear definition of what is religion. In any case, we have to give a broad, wide interpretation of what is religion. And we will just, this is the European Court of Human Rights, we will just need these things. There is needs of cogency, seriousness, cohesion, and the importance of the belief. They say the belief, not the religion, not the belief. So any belief that fulfills these conditions could be considered a religion and could have all the competences, rights, duties of a religious group. This is important, no? So, I agree absolutely that there should be a wide, broad interpretation in a specific case of what is a religion. But in any case, it's good to distinguish what is a religion and what is a belief, because it is not the same, as Abdirahman clearly answered. So let's continue with this. What are the elements? You said the existence of beliefs related to divinity and a way of relating to divinity, a way. Yeah, it's not just a belief, but it also have something to do with our behavior. The existence of acts of worship to the divinity, the existence of, and finally, the existence of a discipline or obligation related to the above. I think that more or less it's clear that, and you have in mind the same things because you were able to answer me this question. Another question. Satanism. Do you think that Satanism could be a religion? Satanism or Spiritism, or what do you think? Yes, Abdirahman.
Perhaps not, because it's not based on the common good.
It's not based, but you cannot see in the definition of religion anything element related to common good.
Okay.
I will give now to Stephen, then Rosalind. Stephen, yes.
I think it depends on
Sorry, Stephen, I cannot hear you very well.
Hello.
Hello, no, there is a problem, at least in my side, I don't know. try to write in the chat. Probably it could be better. But now, Rosalind.
It's directly opposed to the divinity, therefore it can't be a religion.
Yeah, perfect. You're on fire today. Very good. Yeah, Satanism or whatever you want, because you can have many religions and many. There are kind of forms of against the thing, that spirit or thing that is considered the higher, no? Or spirit could be many, but there are another kind of associations or whatever you want that consider that there is a higher spirit or whatever you want, and there are something lower against that. Well, seems to be in the big notion of divinity is the higher, no? And those things that are lower and fighting against that, well, seems to be that it's not properly a religion, no? Many of these groups also has bad intentions, and yes, and is against many times in the common good. But in any case, with just a specific notion of religion, we can say it's not properly a religion because it's not related to develop a good relationship with divinity. Okay, so we can say that Satanism and practice consciously opposite to divinity are not a religion, or the one who maintains the belief of atheism. Atheism is a belief, so as well as the the believers of God or gods or the Great Spirit, but obviously not. It's a position between I believe or not believe, but it's the same position. No? The one dedicated to the study and experimentation of physics and parapsychological phenomena, excluding divinity. No? There are many associations now, groups that say, well, we don't believe in God. All things is just things of our mind. There is even a neuron that is activated when we thought, we think in God. So God is a neuron. Probably, well, in this sense, that river is also a neuron because it's activated. That river activates one neuron. But there are people that say now people understand better the brain and realize that it's not one idea, one neuron. Now this idea that was so present 20 years ago, nobody shared that idea. But 20 years ago, there were many people. God is a neuron. It's incredible. Well, that is not a religion. That is, well, your point of view, but not a belief about divinity with a behavior, worship, and a discipline. No? So that is not a religion. And magical and superstitions or spiritualistic practice, no? Well, a witch that put a kind of poison or thing or to give and to cure and to, well, many times you have to distinguish a kind of folk priest, and probably they have a religion, a cosmovision, and obligations related to their life and many things. And another thing is just to act as a, well, I think that this will help for find you a wife. But it's not a belief related with the whole elements of a religion. Okay, I don't know. Magic is more or less to use the forces of the nature of the spirits and to produce many things. But it's not. It's a belief probably, but it's not properly a belief about divinity, an act of worship, and the obligations. It depends. As you can see, there could be gray lines, gray borders between many things. And that's why I want to put you a case, and you have to answer me, what do you think about this guy? Don't you know who is him? For sure you know. Do you know which is the religion of this guy? Calvin, yes.
He's a Scientologist.
Exactly, Scientologist. So, do you think that it is a new religion or not? That is an issue in Europe. There are case laws about this kind of thing, but they say, well, we want some part of the taxes in Germany and in many other places. Please consider us a religion. And the authorities, if you were the authority in these countries, what you will decide? To include them in the list of religions or not? Remember all the things that I said. This is an issue around the world. Calvin, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the Scientology, I mean, allowing Scientology as a religion has been, you know, hotly debated. Some people say, I mean, it does no harm. Other people say, how can we equate science to a whole religion? It just doesn't make sense. But I would say, yeah, make it a religion. I mean, if
Make it a religion.
but there's no divinity in Scientology. The divinity aspect
There is no divinity.
Yeah.
In fact, they believe that there is no God. That everything, precisely, there is no God. Everything you can explain with science. Everything. Your marriage problem, you can explain with science. your existence, well, they don't know what is existence in a philosophical way. They just know that there are things in the cosmos, no? But there are no philosophers at all. A very basic philosophy, I think so. Probably I could be wrong, but in any case. So if they don't believe and they oppose, they are also called the new atheism. No, well, that is a religion or not? Seems to be that any one of the three requirements are there. No, any one. No? Because if there is no divinity, there is not a belief about. It's a belief, yes, but no. To the way of relating good to the divinity and the worship. What that kind of worship? Worship to science? No, seems to. Oh, well, at the end of the day, they do something like that, but properly not. No, and the existence of a discipline or obligations or behavior related to the above. No. So in many countries, most of the countries, they decide this is not a religion. There is someone that said, no, this is a religion. This is a religion. And the worst part, remember, the resources of a state are not so big. And if you want to share, for example, some resources with some, well, you have to research to give money to one religion. No, that will be a question at the end of this lecture. An important question, a big one, that keep in mind why the state can give or should give money, must not give. Well, why can give or not to religions? No? So it will be, and if there is an association of this is the sign of the new atheism. This is the American atheism. No? So strong, but not so strong. But they used to do a lot of noise in many countries, no? And in many countries they used to sue and to create judgments against so many churches, specifically one in many countries. No? Principally these guys, no? Well, to show that the religion is the worst thing in the world. So if they want to be recognized as a religion, what do you think? You will include them in the religious list? Remember once again, why religion matters. Why religion matters? Yeah, because there are many questions around religion, the existential questions. And atheists seems to be that don't resolve that. On the other hand, I will give you a little answer of the question that I will. Well, many religions do a lot of good things around the world. Many religions, not just Christians. Well, many religions, yeah, and it's good that, and probably that's why the state can give money. But they are doing these associations. They have any kind of hospital or not? No. They are not really care about these kind of things. Probably some of them could have, but normally no. Normally just attacking people that believes, and to attack the people that believes. I don't know if it's good to stay to fund these kind of associations. Well, that is my point of view. Obviously, there could be many. And you should have your own point of view. Okay. So let's continue with another big treaty. International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. This is a true treaty. The declaration is not a treaty, the Universal Declaration. It's just a declaration. You will remember very well the second lecture of this subject. And in Article 18, you can read this. This is important. This is quite important. I will ask you many questions here. First, more or less following the Universal Declaration, you can read, everyone shall have the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. Once again, the three in the same line, on the same page. This right shall include freedom to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice, and freedom either individually or in community with others, and in public or private, to manifest his religion or belief in worship, observance, practice, and teaching. Well, once again, and please consider this, that here you can read public or private. Things are changing in the world. It's good to remember these two words, public or private, individually or in community. Well, no one shall be subject to coercion which would impair his freedom to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice. Second paragraph. This a little different of the first one. I don't know if you realize that there is it's more or less the contrary in some sense. Third, freedom to manifest one's religion or beliefs may be subject only to such limitations as are prescribed by law and are necessary to protect public safety, order, health, or morals, or the fundamental rights and freedoms of others. And finally, I think that Nin remembered us, the states parties to the present covenant undertake to have respect for the liberty of parents and, when applicable, legal guardians to ensure the religious and moral education of the children in conformity of their own conviction. This is quite important. This is quite important. We will see in next week the role of the parents in the education of the children. And remember this part. No? First, the liberty of the parents to give any kind of religion that they want, specifically and more important in moral issues and in religious issues. The state cannot say you have to teach that. In so many places, the state teach the religion to in so many ways to the children, no? And the totalists and communists, they say no, you have to believe that there is no God and is like a drug, a religion. That was the Soviets, no? The Soviets, no, they teach specifically. Now in Europe, they in some places are imposing a kind of teaching of multi-religious subject. you have to teach in every public school a multi-religious subject. But at the end of the day, it's more or less, well, they believe in one God, then two, three, and not very deep in the religion of their parents, but more or less all the religions are the same. All the religions are the same. So, well, for a child, what kind of religion will have? No, they will become a non-believer. Yeah, Sally, yes. You raised your hand.
Just a small question. I don't know. I'm not understanding point 4. Is it saying that the state should give parents the liberty to ensure that their children conform to whose convictions are we talking about? I'm not understanding the statement as it is. Could you please explain it if you don't mind?
Yeah, for sure. I think that at least is clear the last part. To ensure the religious and moral education of their children in conformity with their own convictions. Forget the first part. That part is clear, Sally?
That's the part I'm not understanding. Whose conviction?
Okay.
Their own,
okay. In any case, here there is another treaty that is even clearer that the parents can teach, can give to their children their own convictions about morality and religious things. Okay, so if the parents are, for example, I don't know, Hinduist, they have the right to teach Hinduism to their children and to avoid any other kind of religion taught by the state. Okay?
I understand. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay. And I was saying that in some totalitarian states, in the Soviet Union, it was not a right, because the state used to teach the things that the children should be believed, no matter what the parents say or believe. And I think that is a problem. Even now in Europe, they are teaching a kind of multi-religious things in the schools, and at the end the children say, well, there are many beliefs, but I don't want to be in any religion. And that's why now there is a movement around the world, as you have seen in the video that I showed you. That there are many people every time without a religion. That is a new event in the story of humanity. Okay, let's focus now in this question. This is an easy question, but you have to read once again this article. Is freedom of religion an absolute limited right? Remember the notion of absolute right, that never cannot be limited, as the torture. Of the torture, well, nobody all of us have the right not to be tortured anywhere, anytime, in any case. What do you think? It's an absolute or a limited right? Yes, Kyo. E.
Hi, it's Kyo. I'd say it's a limited right, because Article 18, subsection 3 says that the freedom to manifest one's belief is subject to limitations.
Yeah.
And then these limitations are prescribed by law, and they're necessary to protect public safety.
Okay.
or order health. Yeah.
Should be prescribed by law. There is a clear word. If you put that in the exam, I will put you the half of the rate.
Okay.
Why? Think again. Think again. Georgina.
I think that everyone, the right to freedom of religion is absolute, but to manifest it is limited.
Yeah, good. That is the answer. You're on fire. Very good. It's the same. For sure, you will remember or the other lecture about this kind of thing, thought, belief, and we said the Human Rights Court used to consider them an absolute right when it's just here in our mind. But when we express or manifest or ideas or beliefs or opinions, it's quite different. Then will be a limited right. So both. But good to try. You will never forget that. It's good to try. Good to try. Okay, so let's continue with this because this article has a lot of things. This part. I told you that the first paragraph is more or less the contrary of the last and second paragraph, because the second paragraph is in negative and the first paragraph in positive. I don't know if you realize now the difference. No, I think that you can see in your screen that the first one says also the right to positive things, to do things, no, to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice, to choose, and in community and in private and public, to manifest. All of these are positive things that the believers, the adherents of one religion can do. Okay, can do. This is a positive, the positive part of religion of freedom. Yeah, and the negative. No one shall be subject to coercion, which will impair his freedom to have or to adopt a religion or belief of his choice. Well, it is clear. I think so. So it is nobody can coercion. What it means coercion? When many times it's not so clear. What obviously in the Soviet Union was so clear. No, you should go. The parents have not the right to teach any religion to their children. The state will decide which kind of religion. You can only go to one university and one school, that is the public school and public university, in which we will teach you one specific belief that you have to follow if you want to be in the Soviet Union. But that is a coercion. That is clearly a coercion. No? In the Nazi regime, there was also a coercion, changing all the symbols, all the Christmas, for example, meanings, displays were changed. No, there was not Santa Claus, but another kind of monster, antique monster that went into Christmas to give a gift. There was a lot of promotion of the Nazi regime, also using these things related to Christmas. Well, this is more or less. Here, what do you think that is more important and should be chronologically even the first right, the positive or the negative version of religious freedom? probably the positive, because if we don't have religion, we cannot apply the second one. No? To apply the second, the negative approach to religious freedom, we have to the right first to have any religion, no, to have any belief. If we don't have the right of having some specific belief, we cannot protect with the negative right of no coercion, more or less. So the second cannot exist with the first one. That is the idea here. And that's why normally in the history of the humankind, there was a lot of protection. There was a lot of protection of the first one, the positive content of this right. A lot of protection of having a manifest in public or private sphere. Well, obviously, not in the antique world. In the antique world, was more or less the thing that we saw. The king will impose the religion of the people in his kingdom. That was more or less a principle of the antique era. You can see everywhere, also in Rome. For any religion, at one point was Christianity in Rome. But before that, many other religions, gods and things. And also in Greece and in many places. Remember, with the Protestant reform, the principle of the peace that we have seen, no? Each kingdom, each religion, more or less. But now, no longer exists that kind of political approach, and we have this kind of rights, no, to protect this. So things were like that, with that approach, the principality of the positive content, and the second one, this also is, you have to protect this, but in a secondary way. But things changed a little with this plane. Don't you know what is this plane? No one of you? This plane used to fly in this sky. Incredible, the effect. 11 of September. So things changed a lot in an incredible way. In this specific right, this year and this day, September 11, September. So what happened here? Well, there was a great attack to the Twin Towers, very representative monument in New York, and the whole country saw this, no? And the media, obviously, no? And there, after that, you know very well that there was a war, the United States against, well, the countries and the people that they believed that were the cause of this problem, obviously, no? But, well, beyond the war and the issues and the political issues and many things, this is quite interesting, because from that moment, religion that was considered a good thing, more or less in the last century, began to be considered a problematic thing. because this attack, most of the interpretations said, well, this attack was because religious thoughts, the religious purposes, no, to attack some specific point of view and belief of the Occident in the whole world. The understanding of religions changed a little, saying, well, religions are not so good. Religions are putting us at risk our lives. And there were not just this attack, this was the principle, but after that, there were little attacks because religion, no? And the human rights courts also changed their point of view, and that putting the negative approach of the negative content of the human rights first, and the positive content with lesser protection, and that is a problem. That is a problem. So we have now the smoke and the ashes of the Twin Towers attack, and that is so sad. I think so. That is so sad because, well, now the negative rights about religion, negative content are pressing us more than the positive content of the freedom of religion, more or less. And you can see this in many case law around the world. I will put you someone just to show you what is happening. It is not new in the history of the humankind, but now have another dimension, and that is new, the dimension. So with this attack, many religions were attacked by the judgment of so many courts. For example, this is not new because we have seen exactly the same, even worse, in French Revolution. French Revolution, you will remember, in 1789, we explained a little about that revolution. I think that was in the first lecture. That they decide, well, religion is not good. They are a class that are oppressing us, the second state, not the clergy. So we have to avoid any possibility to them. So they ban the priest. At the very beginning, they accept the priest that follows the revolution, no? That are part of the state. So priests were public officers at the very beginning of the French Revolution, but after that, no, there was a ban. There was a ban also of nuns, nuns, because they don't do anything, no? They are just wasting money, wasting money of the people, and they impose to many nuns to marry. It's incredible, no? It's incredible. In the name of freedom, they impose a marriage. Imagine that, in the name of freedom. There will be no religious feast, no religious holidays. The only holidays that could be is the holidays of the state, of the revolution. And the year will begin with the revolution. The year one is 1789. So it's incredible, no? And all the symbols of the crosses of the churches were destroyed. Incredible, beautiful churches were destroyed in the French Revolution. Notre Dame, as Notre Dame, I don't know if you remember Notre Dame. There were many of them at that time, were all destroyed. Notre Dame was an exception, because Robespierre decided to convert Notre Dame in the temple of the reason, and that's why it was this church was preserved. No, was preserved because it was the temple of the reason. But all the crosses in the public space in everywhere were destroyed. So if you walk at that time, and even now in Paris, you will see that there is no religious sign. No one. It's by imposition, not because there are not believers. It's because there are one law that bans these kind of things. Still now. So this happens just in French, not in everywhere, by the way. That's important to know. Now it's happening everywhere. Little by little is going to many places, to the United States, to South America, to Europe, and you will see what happened here, because everything normally, many case law fees are in the United States. That is why it's good to see the jurisprudence there. Then 10, 20 years before after that, in Europe, then 10, 20 years in South America, and here I don't know well, but I think that a little later. The same cases are replied, the same cases. You can see, probably there is an imposition, but a cultural imposition. In many matters, that's why it's good to know what things are going in there to realize what we have to do to protect our culture. That is important. So the same happened, for example, with the French law of 2004, that these kind of things were banned. For sure, you have heard about that, because there is the clothes of, sorry, I'm trying to find something, of the veils and these kind of things were banned. Why? Because they say, there is a public problem of security. I agree that you have to put some security. Probably there is a criminal, and but many times they surpass that. For example, they say in public schools you cannot wear these kind of things because this is a matter of security. And why? I don't know why, because you know very well which are your students, no? They have a list, they register every day. They can show you the card if you want. Why you will ban that? No, because all the French citizens have the right not to suffer any kind of imposition of religion. To wear a hat, to wear a veil, I don't know. I think that it's not any kind of imposition at all. It's imposition. But the thing that I'm showing here, the notion that we cannot trespass the rights of no coercion of religion, but now in a new approach, the only thing that matters is no coercion. And any word that you can say about religion is an imposition. It's an imposition. If you wear a cross, it's an imposition. If you see a cross in the public space, that is an imposition and should be banned. So it's all these kind of things are impositions where the positive content of religious rights remain. well, it's nothing. It's nothing. I can only I can for this approach. Religion should be just in private. The worship, your beliefs, you cannot say to anyone. It's extreme. It's extreme, no? But the positive count is reduced. Reduced. There is. This is an example, but you have these kind of things everywhere in the world, no? The Canadian Act respecting the laicity of the state. Well, they ban any religious symbol in the state, no? And what about, for example, so many flags of the countries that wears the cross, no? What happened with them? You have to ban that flag. There were a case law about that, and the court said, well, this guy is history, and because it is history, you have the right still to put a cross in your flag. But then there is also another case in Spain, because there is a little cross in the symbol of Spain. Well, so, but what will happen that when a president that is not a believer of that religion will delete that? We have to wait, and there are many symbols, religious symbols in the public space will disappear. Now they are disappearing. They are disappearing because people destroy them. That association of atheists around the world are destroying many symbols, are putting fire on many churches. It's incredible. This is a criminal act, as you can know. So in the UK, in the British Empire, there were laws time ago against, Hobbes, you remember, Locke, they promote freedom of religion to every religion, but not to Catholics. So there are many acts, the Act of Settlement that bans the many appointments to Catholics, just specifically to one religion. No? Locke says, no, all of us have this freedom, but not Catholics. And they are the worst because they serve to the Pope. They are well, okay. So still today, no Catholics can ascend to the throne. To many other churches too. I don't know if you recognize this guy, Tony Blair. Tony Blair. He at one point of his life converted to Catholicism. He had to wait not to be a public officer to change his religion. So still today are these kind of cases. There is another case. Well, there are many in the UK. In this, that some nun in a hospital, in his hospital, offered to one patient, do you want to receive some sacrament? And this patient, this person sued that nun, saying, you are imposing me a religion that I don't accept. Imposing just because they offered a sacrament. Well, imagine that. Now, no coercion. And no coercion probably is, if you want to believe your religion, well, just in private. There is no right to publish worship. Even you will remember that in Spain, in the Universal Declaration and in the whole covenants, they say it's a public and private right to manifest in public and private sphere, area, forum. But now the case, specifically after this attack, well, they said no. In public, no, because religion is something that is danger. It's too risky. You cannot impose anyone. Well, I don't think that is the best approach, but there are many cases in the United States, many cases. I'm putting you just that, no? Prescott versus Oklahoma. It's a case about a monument in the Capitol that put the 10 Commandments, no? 10 Commandments. For sure you will know very well the 10 Commandments. First, to praise, love, worship God, and say not to lie, not to many things. No? 10 Commandments. That seems to be that most of the cultures used to accept the 10 Commandments. Most of the cultures, not just the Christians, not just the Jews. Many cultures, more or less. But because it was in the Bible, that monument suffered many attacks, physical attacks. Many people destroyed that, and after that, the one family helped to rebuild that, and the second time also with some funds of the states of Oklahoma. People disagree absolutely with that, and they decide no, the state is funding a religion. There is a prohibition of help of the government to help any specific religion. And the case goes to the courts, and the court says, well, they have the reason, you have to take it off the monument. You cannot put any monument with the 10 Commandments. 10 Commandments, imagine. So it means that every atheist has the right to put any symbol, anything in the public forum, but not and you cannot lie in the public forum, because that line is in the Bible. That is a religious book. Well, now that kind of things are happening around the world. Obviously, there is a lot of people that don't believe in these things. I don't believe that is the best approach, but it's happening. No? Unfortunately, it's not the approach of most of the countries. Most of the countries are not doing these kind of things. But these things are happening. Remember, no, when things happen in the States, and then in Europe probably will happen at some extent in most of the places of the world. So there's now the Christmas war. The Christmas war. Now it seems to be for many people that sending a Christmas card is an imposition of religion. An imposition of religion. To put, for example, a typical display of Christmas is an imposition of religion. So first in the United States, now in some countries, some specific things of the typical Christmas, even the Christmas tree, but more than if you paint a family with a child, this is an imposition. According to some courts, not to all of them, by the way, not to all of them, it's an imposition. And seems to be not. Seems to be that in many places there is history about that. No, there is history. And on the other hand, well, anyone can express in public and private their thoughts. Anyone can express. The solution here, I think, that is not to ban any expression, any dress, any code, but to foster all of them. If you can put, for example, the menorah of the Jewish in one part of the park, and the traditional Christmas creche of the Christian, another thing of another religion in different parts of the park, well, all people are welcome. Why not? Why not? They decide. There is even just one case in the state in the United States. well, one higher case and another in the lower courts that say, well, you can put only the religious symbols on Christmas if they were diluted. What it means, you have to put in front of the Holy Family Santa Claus, and in the other part a menorah, in the other part all things of all religions in the same place. So we can say that there is no principal religion, no main religion. Well, this is a delusion of the most sacred things of the people. Why you cannot put the same things but in different places of the park? No, they say that in judgment that is just from a lower court and is not of the Supreme Court, by the way. No? Say, no, you have to dilute your symbols. At the end of the day, you cannot put your symbols in the public space. So finally, there is a case that was so well known in Italy. This is what discussed in the European Human Rights Court. That is Lao Tzu versus Italy. Lao Tzu. There was in Italy. Italy is a very religious country. Very religious country. And they used to put also in the public schools a cross in each classroom, because most 98% or more or less, now could be a little less, of the people are Christians there, no? Yeah, but there was a family of Finland, imagine that had one child in that school, and they decided, no, this cross is disturbing me so much, and you are imposing me your religion, because every day I am seeing that cross, and you are imposing me that religion. And this is a public school, and you have to take it off. And that case, right there. So the Human Rights Court explained, well, this is an historical thing, so Italy has the right to put historical with a lot of margin of appreciation, but many people want a more clear position of the Human Rights Court. In any case, they allow. No? What could be the best policy? Well, see specifically what kind of people you have in each class, not to ban the possibility to the state to put, try to welcome all the creeds. Why just the Christian, or why just the Islam in each state, no? Or why the Hindus, or whatever you want. No? I think that is the best policy that should be applied here. As you can see, there is a lot of stuff here, a lot of stuff. So let's continue with the positive rights. That is probably the most important part here. What it means, the positive content of religious freedom. Freedom, first, of access to the religion's truth. Because if you cannot learn about your religion, in 10 years you will be a non-believer. You need to know what is your religion, no? And not just with a subject in which the people used to teach any other things that is not related to your religion. You need to know your religion. So first, it means access to the religious truth. Have some access to your books. In China, for example, as I told you, after many years, the Catholics conquered the right to publish the catechism, but the China government deleted some pages, So there is not right to access to the religious truth. Because well, the China government deleted specific. You cannot publish this, and the Catholic says, well, it's better to publish partially than not to publish at all. That's why the Catholicism in China is censored, and the religious measures are not instructing and educating oneself in it. And education is so important, no? To the parents, to teach each parent the religion that they consider better, or not. It could be also atheist. Parents have also the right to not to teach any religion, or to teach the religion that they prefer. Then freedom to seek and adhere to the belief that is considered true, to maintain it, change it, or leave it when desired, without the need to just justify it. This is also I gave you a mention about this. Freedom to teach, preach, and propagate one's faith, to express one's opinion about religious matters. It is also to preach in any media, no? In any channel, in any place. Obviously, respecting the rights of the other, and this is important, no? Private and public. Now, to preach in public in many states is not possible, or with a lot of troubles. Specifically the state that promotes religious freedom at the very beginning. So freedom to worship privately and publicly, to practice religion and observance its commandments, to receive the means that each religion provides. To receive the means. That's why, for example, you have pastors, priests, ministers that can help in any war, the navy or the military when they need specific means. In hospitals, you have also the service of pastors or ministers or priests to help to pray with the sick. This is another right that is part of religious freedom, another part of the positive right. The right to love and serve the divinity according to one's faith, to dedicate oneself to worship and religious holidays. Holidays are so important. To rest in the holidays, no? A day off in the holidays. Well, this is interesting because many religions has not the same day of feast. I think that now in the world there is an effort to give a day off, specifically day of each religion, and that is good. We have to promote this principle freedom as much as we can. For most of the Christians are Christmas and the Holy Week, Easter. In another religions, as you know, here in Kenya, there are other days, but well, I think that we can accommodate. There is an approach in religious freedom that is the accommodation. How much we can accommodate these kind of things? Well, we can see that this is not so much. Probably the main feasts are 2 or 3 normally in each religion, and it's not so hard to accommodate them. Freedom to self-determine individually with vows, for example, freedom of assembly, association, community to organize, for example, one community of nuns or these kind of things, to have also some things. Well, with this, you can read more. We can say a word of the relationships between religion and state. That what what could be? I will give you a little more than 5 minutes, or between 5 and 10 minutes, to answer these questions. These questions, you can annotate this because there are several. About what do you think? There could be, in the history, you have non-confessional states are confessional states. States that approve one specific religion, and this is the religion of the state. According to human rights, do you think that a confessional state can survive today or not? And on the other hand, can a non-confessional state support the schools and hospitals and nuns and so on? Another question, should a confessional state apply the principle of secularity? Another question, well, here, no. A secular state can fund directly a church, as in Germany. I mentioned you the case. What will happen in a confessional state with non-believers? They have any right in those states, and on the other hand, non-confessional, and to give part of taxes to religion? Well, that happened in Germany. Well, I don't know if someone of you want to say something about these questions. Any idea of any room first? Yes, Tasnim, okay. Then Nancy.
Okay, so in our group, we managed to distinguish between confessional and non-confessional states further, because in Introduction to Law in first year, we had a lecturer called Ambani, and he gave us the distinctions of a religious state, an anti-religious state, states with an established religion, and a secular state, of which the secular state can either be assertive or passively secular. So in distinguishing between confessional and non-confessional, we said that a confessional state would be, according to those 4 categories, a religious state, in that it is established by a certain religion. And therefore, what we discussed in the group would be that in answering whether a state can be confessional under human rights, yes, it can recognize one religion, but it shouldn't recognize that religion to the detriment of other religions, because then you're getting the freedom of thought, conscience, and religion. And then on the basis of the non-confessional states, what we needed to distinguish is it an anti-religious state, meaning a state that has no room for religion, for example, China, that just does not permit anything at all? Is it a state with an established religion, for example, England, where the main religion that is established is the Anglican Church, or Christianity through the Anglican Church, but it still recognizes other religions? Or is it a secular state, which is assertive or passive, of which an assertive secular state is France, where they are assertively trying to ensure that their country is secular? So in distinguishing all of those 3 categories, we then answer, can a confessional state support the schools and hospitals of nuns, fund directly a church, give taxes to religion, etc.? And we recognize that if it is anti-religious, e.g. China, then they would be extremely hesitant to do anything on that front, because they would not want to even recognize religion in itself. But then if it's a state with an established religion, then because they recognize other religions, then yes, they may support the schools and hospitals of nuns. And then if it's a religious, if it's a secular state, for example, France, because they are highly secular and highly trying to ensure that their country is not affiliated with a certain religion, then they may again be hesitant to give funds or taxes or public funds towards a certain religion, because then it would show support of that religion.
So you say if the authorities say, well, this is our position, that will be the solution.
Yes.
Yeah, but I asking a little more. Yeah, I know, but I am asking which will be the best policy or politics. Now is first Nancy, yes, Nancy, then Jangli.
We talked about whether a non-confessional state can support schools and hospitals of nuns. We established that the right to education was a primary need. So regardless of whether it was run by a religious body, the state should support it to ensure that everyone gets education. And then we were okay, but this point was still in contention because would that be seen as them endorsing the religion, or would that be seen as them endorsing education? So we still didn't come to a conclusion about that point.
Okay, very good. Jangli, yes.
In regards to the question of according to human rights, can a state be confessional? I talked about a state has to respect human rights in the first place, because you can have 1 million human rights in a state, but as long as they're not respected, they won't have any effect. The perfect example is China. China, in its constitution of the People's Republic of China, it provides for freedom of religion. But we all know Chinese doesn't like religions like Islam. It doesn't respect them, because there have been several accusations from UN bodies, from international religious freedoms organizations, criticizing China of its harsh treatment and critique against the Muslims in China. We can talk about even Israel.
Yeah, okay. But you agree that there could be or not?
It could. According to human rights.
Okay, perfect.
Human rights is a prerequisite first for a state to be confessional.
Yeah, and what about the second question about this? There is the principle of secularity or not? Secularity, I will explain a little more, but this is a separation of competences. I think that you didn't discuss that, no? What about?
No, we did discuss.
Yes.
We didn't discuss, but I can just give an opinion.
Yeah.
I think a state should apply the principle of secularity, because not every person in that state will abide by a particular religion. So if it does not apply the principle of secularity, it will discriminate against the minority in a state who don't believe and who do not abide by a certain religion strictly. So I think it will give room for freedom of thought. Exactly. Freedom of thought doesn't mean exactly that you should do this religion and against the other. I think it should also provide that one should be free to believe or not believe in a certain religion in a state. So yeah, I think it should apply.
And about the other questions of non-confessional states?
The question of, can a non-confessional state support schools and hospitals of nuns?
Yes.
No, it cannot. It cannot.
Cannot. Why?
Because it goes against their own beliefs. If a state does not believe in religion, why would it invest in hospitals and schools of nuns? It wouldn't.
Any other group want to answer that question, Jangli? Yes, Rosalind.
I think it can, because schools and hospitals are providing a service that's in the interest of the public, like they're promoting public welfare, and where states especially cannot meet this need by themselves, it wouldn't be a good thing if they didn't support, because they can't meet that need by themselves as a state.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other one to want to add a little like new idea? A new idea. Okay. Perfect. As you can see, there is a lot of stuff here. We cannot end the discussion here. It's impossible. But I can say at least on some ideas. First, we have to see in the reality. For example, if the 100% of the people are part of that one religion or a huge part in one state, seems to be, and in the past it happened that, well, normally all people will accept some common principles related to that religion and will be enforced in that state. So more or less could be, there is a possibility of confessional state. Obviously, you have to protect the people's non-adherence to that religion, that have freedom to do anything. Will be many times a little hard, holidays and this kind of thing. That could be another day. But in case, as much as we can, we have to protect. I think that in this part, almost all of us agree. And it should apply the principle of secularity. Well, it depends how it is understood. If you say, well, we have to divide the authority, the authorities of the religion and the authorities of the state. Now most of the states do that, and I think that is a good thing. In the past, most of the states didn't do that. Not only in Western, but also in the East, and everywhere, no? Used to combine all the mix in the system. I don't know if it is the best one. I understand that there could be a mix of this still in many places of the world. I prefer the other system. But especially the majority is from one religion. Can a non-confessional state support hospitals, schools, or directly pay to charge? Well, it depends, I think. It depends also of the customs of each place. There is a lot of cultural things here that we have to respect. But especially, we have to see how much that hospital is helping the people. Many times, it's cheaper for a state to give some money to one hospital of any faith, no, than to put their own hospitals. To give a little subsidy, a little money to a little fund to one school that to put 10 schools, no, it's cheaper, and you can have many people. And the parents will be, if there are many schools of one religion, probably it's because there are many people of that religion in Tibet or in any place of Hinduism. Why there are many schools of Hinduist schools? Because there are many people with that faith, no? And direct to fund a church, well, many times it's not so easy. In the Protestant states, the usual of Germany and around Switzerland, they used to give the opportunity to give part of the taxes to one religion. But each faithful, each person should choose. I think that is a good possibility to give to the people the opportunity to divide one part of their taxes and they select. Many times they select not a church, for example, but a specific hospital or a specific thing, association or non-profitable project or anything. I think that is good to give that the opportunity to the people to choose where their taxes will go. And if you are an atheist, you can give the money to another thing, not to a church. That is a possibility in many places around the world, and I think that is to encourage freedom of religion. Well, let's go little by little with the three principles that should govern the relation between the state and the church. This especially applies to non-confessional states, but I think that also applies more or less to confessional states to some extent. Well, first, the principle of separation. The principle of separation, and it's clear, that normally, well, the state has one specific duties related to the common good, to the good of the citizens, principally in material things, well, to put street roads, electricity, water, the basic service. And this is not a matter of the religion. So that our competence that are only of the state. On the other hand, religions have their own competences. So, well, principally to develop or to make it easier a good relation with divinity. A good relation. How to do that? Well, there could be many other things, no? So it's quite important to distinguish the competences of each part. So in this way will be a lot of peace. If not, well, there will be a mix of things, no? Second principle that is also important, the principle of secularity. What it means, secularity, autonomy of the state and religious groups. For example, the authorities of the state cannot decide who will be the new pope. In the past, that happened. Many countries want to put their pope. Well, there was a lot of control of the states to the Catholic Church. And on the other hand, the principles of the religions cannot put the authorities of the state. This is secularity, no? So obviously not as a religious person, because as a lay person, well, you can go to any believer can go to vote to anyone each one wants, no? So it means secularity, no? And on the other hand, non-persecution. It's quite important to differentiate that a non-confessional state is not an atheist state. It's not that bans everything of any belief. No, this is non-confessional state is not to be married with one religion, but not to persecute any of the religion. That is not the principle of secularity, not the meaning of non-confessional state or indifferentism. And finally, well, we can see that there is a lot of things that are part of the state and part of the related to the religions. For example, education. Well, how to teach? Well, the state probably have to put some public schools, high schools, university, but also to recognize the right of the individuals, of the religions, of any society, any beliefs, and to put their own educational institutions. Well, both should achieve the common good and allow welfare in some mixed matters. What kind of matters? Well, there is a lot of mixed matters. For example, well, the mixed matters, I repeat, the thing that both religion and state have a common interest. Each one is own field. For example, the recognition of religious institutions, no? Or minor entities association of faithful members, the freedom of communication between religious members, because that's why, for example, in the Navy, in the army forces, well, religions used to have some pastors, some ministers, some priests that could help the members of the Navy, for example, that are in war and well, in that specific moment. And also they can have the public hospitals should allow ministers, pastors, priests to help the sick people in the hospital, no? Of their beliefs also, and to offer to anyone the spiritual service that they offer. Freedom of organization and appointment of religious authorities, we talk about that. Freedom worship, religious practice in private and in public forum. The legal status of religious individuals, well, and many other things that you can read in limit 118. Well, with this, I will end for today. We have seen the relations between religious and state. You will read this